Hi, it's good to see you. I'd like to talk with you about something today, just a little, and that something is time. So everybody seems to be quite certain that time is something linear, even though, well, that's just one way to look at it and a very narrow perspective, given that all the things that we measure when we measure time have to do with cycles and circles and spheres and their dancing and their behaviors. So somehow we're stuck with that idea that space is something that is essentially dead because it's supposed to be without time and dimension and all that, weight and all that. Now, that idea of space in a box is nonsense. Time is not part of that picture because otherwise the thing wouldn't last. It can't hold that weird shape of a cube without triangulation. But this is only half of the problem. The other half of the problem is the idea that time is something that goes from a past on one end of an arrow through a line that says this is the present, and then it goes the other way to what is the future. And I mean, that's not really wrong in that sense that life seems to be moving into one direction towards what seems to be a future, but it is doing that at present, all the time. So let me just share with you something that I gathered from the works of the wonderful David Abrams and his Spell of the Sensuous and Becoming Animal, and also Bucky Fuller's Synergetics and a little bit of Taoism, like Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. And all of those things together I can use to localize that idea of time within that idea of space, but take out the ideas about it and just look at what is there, So without the abstraction in a way. Now, if I'm doing this, talking to you on this medium of a video, there is a bunch of bodies involved, like the camera and the thing I'm sitting in and the air in between, and then the whole internet body web net that goes between this place and your computer and whatever you look at, and everybody is part of that story in a way. And I want to address that, as well as the fact that we're all beings of the earth, so we are the earth being whatever we are, and there's a great number of people in the world, humans and more than human people, who are very much familiar with these things, and they don't see the world in space and time as two separate things, but for them there's place, and place is what is, it's both space and time embodied. And space-time, in the way that we have been visualizing it in our concepts of conventional science and all that, is still nonsense, because it is kind of reducing what is supposed to be more than the cubes, including the space-time, into a flat web again, and then distorting that as a body. Alright, so yeah, of course you can bend the rubber sheet in with the help of gravity pulling but it's not pulling here, it's pulling that way around, and the effect of it goes that way. But yeah, okay, now sorry, I'm going on tangents, but these things are so related to one another all the time. Anyway, so let's talk about space-time, and if we do that, then I can tell you a lot about what kind of structures and shapes you will encounter within space-time, as that is something that is easily to be made and manifested and, well, embodied in a way. But if we're talking about the time aspect today, then I want to look at that. And the first thing to do is to realize how we differentiate those three realms of time, right? So there's what we have, which is the past, which is closed off, and it's definitely somewhere, but you can't get there. You can't get back into the past, because to do so you have to cut into somebody, to see within the earth the archaeology or geology, and within the tree the rings, and within you and me DNA and scars and memories and stories and all that. Those are within us, right? So if you have anybody, they have their own past, because that is what they are. It's the ongoing re-emergence and regeneration of wave patterns of stories, tunes, music, dance, color, light, all the many ways and waves in which the universe is waving at itself. And that is within the bodies, right? So how can we not see that? Because, well, the way we learn about all these things starts with nobody, right? Because we say a point has no dimensions. Even though you can see it, you can look at it with the one or the other scope and see, okay, look, on that piece of paper, that body of paper that is not two-dimensional flat, but really a body, on that you find a whole system of ink, a whole body of ink who's dropped there, and that's a point, and it's big, it's got dimensions from the beginning, because what really happened is something met, your hand with something that is a pen, with a body that is a paper, within the body that is the air. And all of that is written into that body point being put upon the paper, or the star in the sky with a microscope, a telescope, suddenly becomes gigantic. So there's no point in saying the point is none, The point is somebody, and it's everybody, anybody. And any point in universe is its own center. It's all polycentric. There is no above or below. There's just within, towards the in or towards the out. And we're still in the within. And, well, I'm talking about the within without actually giving you one, but here's one. And this one, this body, let's put that around it, and then take this body. Why not? So this body is an 8i, but a 2-frequency 8i, and you can see that this body has two sides. Yeah. There's the inside, which is everything that goes from the membrane towards within, but also the membrane being the structure's outer stretch, if you like. But also there's the inside of the pieces, the whole pieces it's made of. So there's the story of each piece of bamboo growing somewhere. There's the string going through that. There's all the things that went by while I was putting it together. All of that is written into the inside of this body, into the flesh of this body. It's past that is present to me because I'm on the outside of this body, right? I'm looking at it from the outside and from my inside, because, well, we're both the same, you know. My outside is the same outside as this outside, because it's the inside of the earth ocean that we're walking through and breathing through and moving. So that is the presence. It is between this body and me, between you and me, between the computer and you, between you and whatever you can see and kind of hear as well, because that's also present. But it is a presence that tells you something about the insides, because I can talk to you about whatever I remember within me. All my past I can tell with you, I can talk with you, I can give you some of my stories, which are not history, but my stories. But we can interact and share that within the body that we share, which is the air, right? So that air is carrying whatever sounds we share, and those carry the meaning of whatever we carry within us. And it doesn't actually have to be words that we have in a language. There's any tongue, any song, anything will do. But we can share what we are with one another, and we do that all the time, because really there is never any separation, right? So there is no, your skin is what is keeping you apart from the world. Really, no, that's not true, because the skin is what is the membrane opening up the place for you to be within, for universe to be within you. And also it opens up all of it around. It is what is a boundary between the two. It binds together me and you. And here we are, and we have 2 of 3 realms of time. We have the inside being the past, and the outside, the between the bodies, as the present. But there's one place we haven't talked about yet, and that is what you can't see behind me, and what I can't see behind me, or behind you, or behind anything that surrounds me, because everybody has a body that has some part of it facing you and some part going away, and only that within your sight is your presence, that what is behind the horizon, whether it's the far horizon of where the sphere of air, ocean dives beyond what you can see, because there's the earth, the ground rising up before it, or the very close future that is your immediate surroundings. And those surroundings, by the way, that other is really the outer, and that is also parts of you, right? Because you look out to yourself and you see yourself and you don't see your back. Neither can you taste your tongue or tickle your finger, you know? You can't. It's okay. That's why we have the common ground and the common air and the common body. That is what we all share and what we all are. Because within those interactions we can get around one another and see many of those other hidden sides while time passes by and we turn around one another. And we will never see the whole picture. There is no point in saying that science is to be objective. That is the same delusion that is behind an omnipotent God that is beyond everything and sees everything. No. What is reality is the intersubjective, right? So the in between one and other is what binds it all together. And rather than defining one center or another above the others and saying, yeah, humans are at the center of everything, the earth is, or the sun is, or whatever. No, they are all. Everybody is their own center of universe with that membrane that has, it is, if you like, and you see that arrow of time displayed somewhere, this one, just look at it, zoom out a little, and you see, okay, that moment of presence is a circle. It is the membrane, the skin that gives you the in-between, while there is on the concave side of the sphere there is the inside, the past, and on the convex side, that way you see the future. Alright, so we don't have to argue whether linear or non-linear is right, because they're both the same thing. It's the ideas, the question is, do we base our ideas on nonsense, as we do? There is no point. The line goes to infinity, the area is somehow a square, and the space is a cube on a spherical earth. How does that work? And then time is something that we can't place within that. While really it could be so simple, right? If the model of space that we use is very complicated and useless. I mean, it's not useless. You can do stuff with it. You can put it like so. You can give it shapes that it can hold. There's a few of them, and they all make probably a lot more sense than the frame around this that we have as the cube. That's irrational. This is what is at its heart, and the easiest thing for me to do to make this stable within a shape that looks like a cube would be to take 6 sticks, put them as the diagonals of the square faces, and triangulate them, and by doing so creating within that box that is really not there, create this thing that can hold that box in place, because it can hold a lot of stuff. It holds everything together. If you need some idea of what space-time looks like, this is where it starts. It's 4 vertices, 4 eyes, and 6, half a dozen connections, relationships. So space-time is not 3-dimensional. There's no thing in the universe is 3-dimensional. Everything from the beginning is at least, whatever we talk about, it is at least a whole body. And to be that, it's the whole thing. It's defined by a membrane that is past within and present around and future beyond, behind. Alright, this is going in circles because it's synergetics, but yeah. I hope that was maybe helpful and a little bit informative and interesting, and I hope to see you around soon, and I hope you find interest in considering resensing the place we are at, our place on Earth. And yeah, please, if you have no idea what I'm talking about with all these shapes and you want to have an idea, check out my Synergetics in a Nutshell video, and then perhaps one or many of the other playlist Synergetics videos. Or just go to Buckminster Fuller's Synergetics. Amy Edmondson wrote a great book about it, a fuller explanation, and those are absolutely brilliant. And I'm just taking I dare to be naive enough to play around with words a bit to make these things a little more accessible. Alright, so this is it for today. Have a good turnaround and see you again soon.